Iran is heading towards complete destruction. According to the President of the United States, Tehran is threatening, "We will turn the Middle East into hell." Iran is escalating its attacks against the United States, and in response, the United States has begun striking power stations inside Iran. The best of the U.S. Air Force are attacking without pause, supported by hundreds of missiles and unmanned aerial vehicles. And the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is under relentless attack. Iran is warning of devastating revenge against the United States and is demanding that Washington reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Trump, for his part, has abandoned the Hormuz tax and made it clear the strait is open to every vessel except Iranian. The President of the United States announced that the blockade in Hormuz would be directly and directed exclusively against Iran, while also revealing a new economic arrangement with the Gulf states. We'll soon bring you all the details. And a new diplomatic train is beginning to move out of Beirut, but it appears that the Hezbollah terrorist organization is already standing on the tracks. At the same time, the IDF continues to operate against Hamas terrorists in Gaza. I'm Shoshani. This is Boots on the Ground, bringing you the full truth of what's happening in Israel, as well as the full truth about what is happening in our neighborhood, the Middle East. Today is July 15th. Let's get started. American strikes are continuing without pause across Iran. The United States has begun targeting power stations. Explosions were reported on Iran's Keshem Island in the Strait of Hormuz, while the Iranian Tasnim news agency reported strikes on a power station on Kish Island. And last night, 4 American missiles struck the city of Bushehr and the surrounding area, damaging several infrastructure sites around the southern city. Images and videos posted online showed at least one strike near the port in the coastal city. And although the main wave of strikes lasted approximately 5 hours, the American attacks did not end there. A U.S. official confirmed that additional strikes were carried out inside Iran to destroy threats that have reemerged, a sign that Washington has shifted from a pre-planned wave of attacks to continuous operations against targets identified in real time. Within only a few hours, the confrontation between Washington and Tehran spread beyond Iran's borders, reaching American bases in Jordan, Bahrain, and Kuwait. After 5 hours of American strikes, Iran launched missile barrages towards 3 separate arenas, making it clear that every attack against Iran would be answered with a direct strike against the American presence in the region. Jordan has already intercepted missiles that entered its airspace, while the Pentagon has raised the alert level across the Middle East. At the same time, Trump is reinstating the naval blockade against Iran and is threatening to turn the United States into the guardian of the Strait of Hormuz, according to him. And while Tehran declares that it will not surrender control over the world's most important energy route, meanwhile, a third tanker was attacked in the Arabian Sea off the coast of Oman. The Dutch shipping company Stolt Tankers announced that the Stolt Magnesium had been hit and that a fire had broken out in its engine room. All crew members were rescued. Developments in the Strait of Hormuz also shook the energy market. The price of a barrel of crude oil rose during the day to more than $86. However, after Trump backed away from his plan to charge a 20% fee for passage through the strait, the price quickly fell to approximately $78 per barrel. This is no longer another limited exchange of blows. Iran is opening several fronts at the same time. The United States is tightening the naval stronghold, and the Middle East is rapidly approaching a regional confrontation that neither side is attempting to hide. U.S. President Donald Trump addressed the strikes in Iran during his meeting with the new Iraqi Prime Minister, Ali al-Zaidi. Trump said, "I gave them a chance. I wanted to give them a chance to reach an agreement. We had an agreement 2 days ago, it was already finalized, and then suddenly they could no longer go through it. There was something in the agreement that they did not like. They could not agree to it, and they fired first. It was a major mistake on their part to fire first, because since then, we've been hitting them with tremendous force. They are very tough people. Washington is now turning its attention to the financial networks of Iran's ruling elite. At the center of the effort is businessman Ali Ansari, who, according to the United States, controls one of the most important financial networks belonging to the inner circle surrounding Supreme Leader Mujtaba Khamenei. Britain is also increasing the pressure on Tehran. The government in London announced that it would move forward in Parliament this week with a measure that would allow the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps to be designated as a terrorist organization. It's about time for that, if you ask me. The decision follows allegations that the Quds Force was behind a network of anti-Semitic arson and sabotage operations throughout Europe. The Kuwaiti military reported a short time ago that it had taken action against a hostile aerial target in the country's airspace and warned residents that they might hear explosions. At the same time, explosions were reported on Keshem Island in southern Iran. And in Israel, a clear message to Tehran. Prime Minister Netanyahu warned that Israel would respond far more forcefully to any attack by Iran and declared that the era in which Israel could be attacked without expecting a price over its enemies was long over. In Lebanon, President Yosef Aoun sees a rare opportunity. Iran has been weakened, Hezbollah is under pressure, and the United States is prepared to push for an agreement with Israel. Another round of direct talks is scheduled to begin in Rome tomorrow. And next week, Aoun is expected to arrive in the White House, hoping to secure Trump's support, funding, and a path towards restoring the Lebanese state's control over its own security. However, Hezbollah refuses to separate itself from Tehran. The organization is demanding that Lebanon be included in any agreement between Iran and the United States. And above all, it refuses to surrender its weapons. Behind the negotiations with Israel, the real battle is now unfolding. Will decisions about Lebanon's future return to Beirut, or will they continue to be made in Tehran? Aoun has already declared the state's train has left the station. Hezbollah is planning to stop it. And while Tehran was saying goodbye to Ali Khamenei, a meeting was taking place behind the scenes that could directly affect the future of the war in Gaza. Senior Hamas officials attended the funeral not only to offer their condolences, but also with an organized list of demands to include Gaza in the negotiations between Iran and the United States, to prevent any attempt to disarm the organization, and to guarantee money and supply routes that would allow Hamas to rebuild its military strength. The demands were presented one after the other to senior regime officials and commanders from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And the Iranian response was unequivocal. Every demand was accepted. The agreement formed on the sidelines of the funeral is now being revealed, along with Tehran's plan to keep Hamas armed, funded, and an inseparable part of any future regional arrangement. We'll soon bring you all the story on this. There's a great deal ahead of us. Let's dive into the details. I'm Shoshani, usually joined by Yair Pinto, and this is Boots on the Ground. We bring you the full truth about what's happening in Israel and about the war against the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in Iran, the head of the axis of evil in the Middle East. Just before we begin, I want to call on you to continue spreading the truth. Share our content with as many people as possible. Click the subscribe button. And most importantly, don't forget to find me, Mati Shoshani, and Yair Pinto on social media, where you can see through our eyes what it's like to live in Israel during a war. Guys, as missiles once again fall across Israel, from Iran, Hezbollah, and other enemies, many people are asking how they can stand with Israel in a meaningful way. And the answer is simple. Help us rebuild. We invite you to take part in something real, something rooted in the land and in the heart. The Rebuild Israel campaign continues, bringing life back to Israel's north, along Israel's northern border, an area marked by war, displacement, and loss. We're planting an apple orchard, not only as a symbol for a single moment, but as part of a long-term commitment to restore what was damaged and strengthen Israel's future. At a time when Israel is under attack, planting trees is a powerful declaration. We are still here. We are building, we are growing, and we are not leaving. God promised this land to the people of Israel, and together we can help it flourish once again. This orchard is more than agriculture. It creates jobs for local families. It helps communities return and rebuild. And it sends a clear message to the people of Israel. You're not alone. And when you donate, you're not just giving. You are rebuilding. Your support puts trees in the ground, restores livelihoods, and transforms land scarred by war into a land that grows again. This is how renewal takes root. This is how Israel rebuilds after war. Stand with Israel today, plant hope, restore the North, and strengthen the future. Go now to tbn.org/rebuildisrael or call 800-804-7895. Rebuild the land, restore hope, bless the future. Let's get back to the news. Satellite images released after Iran's retaliatory attack now provide a clear picture. Damage can be seen at logistical facilities at El Udeid Air Base in Qatar and in areas used by command systems in Bahrain and Kuwait. Not every victory claim published by Tehran has been verified, but some of the missiles and unmanned aerial vehicles succeeded in penetrating the defensive shield and striking inside American compounds. So why is Iran spreading its fire across several countries instead of concentrating it against the American force operating against it? The answer begins with the way the United States built its presence in the Middle East. Aircraft, defense systems, ammunition depots, fuel and command centers are not concentrated at a single base. They're spread from Jordan to the Gulf, so that one strike cannot disable the entire campaign. Iran is trying to turn that advantage into a weakness. Every barrage towards another country forces Washington to defend another area, activate additional radars, and keep aircraft on alert instead of using them for offensive missions. The selection of targets is also not random. Tehran claimed that it struck Patriot systems, control radars, fuel tanks, and logistical centers. These are the systems that allow a base to receive aircraft, arm them, and return them quickly to the mission. A strike on a runway, well, it can delay operations for several hours. Damage to fuel, communications, or maintenance systems could slow a base for much longer. Now, this is why both sides are now searching for the systems behind the aircraft and the missile, rather than focusing only on the weapon itself. The Kuwaiti military announced that it had taken action against hostile aerial targets inside its airspace. Residents were warned in advance that they might hear explosions, while defense systems attempted to identify and to intercept threats arriving from the direction of Iran. At almost the same time, explosions were reported at Keshem Island, along with an American strike on boats at Kish Island. Both islands are located in the area where the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps operates surveillance systems, naval forces, and assets used to defend the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this is what the current administration and cycle of attacks looks like. Iran launches towards the bases that allow the United States to operate, and the Americans return to the islands, ports, and boats that allow the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps to threaten the shipping. Now, Washington has also corrected the economic sanctions and announcements that shook the energy market. The plan to charge a fee equal to 20% of every cargo passing through Hormuz has been abandoned. In its place, a targeted blockade has been presented against vessels connected to Iran. That is a significant operational difference. A general passage fee would have required a collection mechanism for every commercial vessel, including ships belonging to friendly countries. A selective blockade requires precise intelligence regarding ownership, cargo, the last port visited, and the final customer. Now, a vessel can sail under the flag of one country, be registered to a company in a second country, and carry cargo sold through a company in a third. Iran has used arrangements like this for years to conceal oil exports and to bypass sanctions. The blockade will therefore not be decided only by destroyers and boarding vessels. It will depend on insurance databases, cargo documents, banking transactions, and surveillance of ship-to-ship transfers at sea. Now, when a vessel switches off its automatic transponder identification system it changes course, or transfers cargo far from a port, it creates indicators that maritime intelligence systems can collect. The challenge is proving the connection to Iran before stopping it. Trump says the strait is now open to every vessel that does not serve Iranian trade. Tehran presents the opposite picture and makes clear that it still considers itself entitled to determine who may pass and under what conditions. Within the dispute, Oman and China are trying to keep a channel open. Beijing has called for the rapid restoration of safe and regular traffic because every prolonged disruption threatens energy supplies and shipping prices across Asia. Oman is working towards an arrangement that would restore freedom of navigation without giving either side a complete victory. And the United States demands that the strait remain open without Iranian approval, while Iran demands recognition of what it describes as its rights in the passage. And the real battle is now also advancing far from the water. The United States Treasury has moved to strike the people who operate international financial networks for the regime. And at the center of the effort is the businessman Ali Ansari. Washington claims that he managed a financial system that served the circles surrounding Supreme Leader Mujtaba Khamenei, senior regime officials, and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Ansari built his influence on iron trading, real estate, and banking. His name is especially associated with Aynadeh Bank and the Iran Mall project, one of the largest shopping centers in the world. The bank granted enormous loans to companies connected to its owner. When the debts and problematic loans grew, Iran's central bank revoked his license and merged its operations into the state-owned bank Melil. The story matters because it explains how Iran's elite protects itself. Money originating inside the Iranian system moves through shell companies, currency dealers, real estate assets, and accounts in several different countries. Those layers make it difficult to identify the real beneficiary. A hotel in Europe or a company in the Gulf can appear to be a private investment, while its profits are being used by a senior official or security organization in Tehran. The sanctions against Ansari are not intended only to freeze his assets. They are designed to frighten banks, lawyers, insurance companies, and asset managers that work with his network. Now, once someone is placed on a sanctions list, every international company must reconsider its relationship with that person. Sometimes the fastest damage is not the confiscation of money, but the fact that no one is prepared to touch it. Now, Iraq could become a central part of the next step. Trade networks, currency exchanges, and financial transfers inside Iraq have served for years as a bridge between Iran, the dollar-based system, and Arab markets. The new Iraqi Prime Minister is visiting Washington at a sensitive moment. He wants to avoid a situation in which Iraq is forced to choose publicly between the United States and the militias and financial systems aligned with Tehran. If the administration expands enforcement to Iraqi actors, Baghdad will have to decide whether to protect its banking system or face sanctions because of Iranian activity on its territory. Britain is also increasing the cost. London has banned support for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps under the National Security Act. Well, that's a move that allows the authorities to prosecute individuals who assist the organization's activities in Britain. This isn't only symbolic. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the Quds Force have for years been linked to attempts at surveillance, intimidation, and operations against regime opponents, Israelis, and Jewish communities outside Iran. The United States is attacking military capabilities along the coast, and at the same time, sanctions and European measures are trying to reduce the space in which the regime can move money, operate agents, and call purchase services. Guys, what you see on YouTube is only part of the story. Get close to the first-hand reports, behind-the-scenes moments, and stories of faith, resilience, and hope from Israel by visiting www.tbn.org/journeys/boots or text BOOTS to 316-316 for direct updates from Israel. With me, Mati, Annie, reporting directly from Israel, you're not just watching the news, you're witnessing what's happening on the ground. TBN Israel brings honest first-hand coverage from the ground in Israel to viewers around the world. In partnership with TBN, We share what's really happening through a Judeo-Christian perspective rooted in truth, faith, and the people living it every day. Your support helps deliver on-the-ground reporting, real stories of resilience and hope. And of course, trusted coverage that connects Christians and Jews to Israel. The struggle over money and weapons reaches directly into Lebanon. The 6th round of direct talks between Israel and Lebanon is scheduled to take place in Rome on July 15th and 16th. Under American mediation, Lebanese President Yosef Aoun sees a moment in which Iran is occupied with defending its own territory, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is under pressure, and Hezbollah is weaker than it was before the war. Aoun wants to use this window to strengthen the Lebanese armed forces, to secure an international reconstruction fund, and restore the state's authority over security decisions. On July 21st, he's expected to arrive at the White House. From his perspective, the meeting with Trump is not merely a diplomatic event. He needs an American commitment that will allow him to present the Lebanese public with a tangible achievement. Israel is demanding mechanisms, not declarations. Every withdrawal from southern Lebanon must be connected to the deployment of Lebanese units, the dismantling of Hezbollah infrastructure, and supervision that ensures the organization does not return under civilian cover. The Lebanese presidency is attempting to manage the process from the presidential palace and avoid, during the first stage, a government vote that could become trapped by the country's sectarian balance of power. That is an understandable tactic, but it also exposes Beirut's weakness. A security agreement cannot survive for long if the government, parliament, and military are not prepared to enforce it. Hezbollah understands that the deal and the real discussion is not about 2 pilot zones in the south. The discussion is about who holds the right to decide when Lebanon goes to war. Senior Hezbollah officials are demanding that Lebanon be included in any final agreement between Iran and the United States. From their perspective, an Israeli withdrawal and an end to the fighting must come before any serious discussions about weapons. Now, Tehran benefits from that position. As long as Lebanon remains part of Iran's negotiation file, Hezbollah continues to serve as a strategic bargaining chip rather than an internal problem for the Lebanese state. Aoun is trying to reverse that equation. He wants Lebanon to manage its own border, receive assistance directly, and stop waiting for decisions made between Washington and Tehran. Saudi Arabia supports that direction because weakening Iranian influence in Beirut has long been a strategic objective for Riyadh. Saudi support can provide money and Arab legitimacy, but cannot replace a decision made inside Lebanon. The Gaza arena reveals the same method from another direction. The IDF eliminated Osama Naim Hamdi Shamalka, a cell commander in Hamas's naval array, who worked to rebuild its maritime force and advance attack plans from the sea. In another strike in the northern Gaza Strip, 3 armed terrorists who posed an immediate threat to Israeli forces were eliminated. And days earlier, Yahya Saeed Muhammad Hamdan, the commander of a Nukba cell that raided the Ra'im military camp on October the 7th, was also eliminated. The IDF also struck Rashid El-Kashi, a senior figure in Palestinian Islamic Jihad's weapons production system, who was involved in manufacturing processes and the supply of weapons. What these targets have in common is the effort to prevent reconstruction. Hamas and Islamic Jihad do not need to immediately rebuild a large force. They only need to restore small cells, local production, and command systems capable of harming Israeli forces. The strike on the police station in Jabalia belongs to the same picture. Muhammad wa Marwan Salem and additional officers were part of a mechanism that controls the streets, gathers information, and allows Hamas to remain the authority in practice. Hamas speaks about a technocratic government, but it is not offering a surrender to its weapons, police, or security system. It's prepared to transfer responsibility for sewage, electricity, and reconstruction as long as the decision over who controls Gaza remains in its hands. The meeting held in Tehran on the sidelines of Ali Khamenei's funeral shows that the organization is already planning the next stage. The delegation included Muhammad Darwish, Musa Abu Marzouk, Zahir Jabarin, and additional senior officials. Facing them were Parliament Speaker Mohammed Bagir Galibaf, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, and Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Commander Ahmed Wahidi. Hamas presented 3 central demands. The first was a diplomatic safety net that would protect its conditions in any future negotiation. The second was to connect the Gaza file to talks between Iran and the United States, so that pressure on Israel would become part of the price Tehran demands for a regional agreement. The third demand was highly practical: money, renewed supply routes, and the reconstruction of military capabilities. Hamas also requested that the supporting fronts remain at high level of readiness. The Iranian response was positive to every demand. This means Tehran does not view Gaza as a separate file, but as part of a one system that includes Hezbollah, the Houthis, and the militias in Iraq. This also explains why the economic campaign against financial operators matters. A missile for Hamas, a component for the Houthis, or a salary for a Hezbollah operative does not necessarily begin inside a military warehouse. It begins in an account, a shell company, or a transaction that is difficult to connect to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. From Israel's perspective, separating the arenas is a central objective. Lebanon must make its decisions in Beirut. Gaza must receive leadership that is not subordinate to Hamas. And Iraq must prevent the militias from using the state as an Iranian pipeline. Iran is trying to do the opposite. It is connecting every crisis to one negotiating system, so that pressure against one proxy requires payment in another arena. The Hormuz crisis is also bringing the question of alternative routes back to the table. Projects such as the IMEC corridor and the Eilat-Ashkelon pipeline will not solve the blockade tomorrow morning, but they demonstrate why the West is searching for ways to reduce its dependence on one passage. Israel could become part of a land and energy bridge between the Gulf and the Mediterranean. And for that to happen, cooperation with Arab countries, stable infrastructure, and a regional defense system capable of functioning under fire will all be required. For now, the more immediate danger remains military. Every Iranian success against an American base encourages Tehran to continue. Every deeper American strike increases the pressure on the regime to respond. Netanyahu made clear that Iran should not expect a limited Israeli response if it decides to bring Israel into the cycle of fire. Israel is not leading the current round, but it is preserving its freedom to change it quickly. The war is now being fought between missile batteries, ports, bank accounts, and negotiation rooms, while each side tries to break the system that allows the other to continue fighting. Will the combined pressure force Tehran to back down, or will it push the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps to activate all the fronts it has built around Israel at once? Guys, keep spreading the truth. Follow us. Most importantly, don't forget to click the subscribe button so that you stay tuned into the truth in real time. Never miss boots on the ground. Keep looking for me, Mati Shoshani, and Yair Pinto on social media to see life in Israel through our eyes. And don't forget to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, for the people of Israel, for our leaders, for President Trump, for all the people behind this historic moment that we're in. A moment that combines some kind of end-time theology, we're not sure what exactly it is, an immense battle against the evil of our time, which is the Iranian revolutionary government, the Ayatollahs, the IRGC, and of course, standing up for the good of the people of the Middle East. Guys, be blessed, and we'll see you all the next time. Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.